Hi guys, this is SDJR7F88 speaking with another update on the Garden Railway. And as you can see, coming into shop now, trains are finally running again. The locomotive running today is a Pico 060 tank engine, which was split from a Pico G-scale starter set, which I purchased off a well-known auction site. And it's a lovely little loco. I plan to do a few little modifications to it in the future, like maybe the addition of sound. And of course, with all Pico locomotives, they come with a set of narrow gauge buffers, and they will be fitted as well at some point. But there's been plenty of work done on the railway in general, as you're about to see. So without further ado, let's get into the update. So this is where the main bulk of my work has been happening on the Garden Railway over the past month, and it is in fact where there was once a hole, there is now track. As you can see, I filled in the hole with some hardcore, topped it up with the ballast, and of course put in some more stakes and the track on top of them, more ballast. So we now have a permanently fixed section of the new extension and a new siding. Which is perfect for storing locos and firing up live steam engines. So I'm really pleased with how it's gone down. You can just see up in the top right there where the you can just see a little carriage in the passing loop there is sticking out. You can see some wires. So what I'm going to do now is show you how I wired up this section. The siding itself is isolated, and the whole entire loop new extension is also isolated along with the passing loop. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly show you the wiring setup while it's all set up and running, and then I'll talk about how I plan to make it a bit more of a permanent feature in the not too distant future and make it easier to wire up and set up for running days like this next time we get some good weather. So here's my current wiring setup. Apologies if it's a bit hard to see. But what we've got here on the right is a standard LGB train set controller, a Pico switch box, and a bit of wiring. So these two wires here, they are what connects the power to the track. Now the blue wire here on the left, which is basically the closest rail you can see to us now, which is the train's just in the way there. But this rail here connects to this rail. There's another wire connecting to that, and that goes into the switch box. Now, at the end of each isolated section, there is a plastic fish plate. You can see one just there for this section. There's another one there for the loop there. And that basically isolates that track. Now, what this wire does is it then also connects electricity, which will go to that rail, into the switch box, which then goes to the switches. Now, these switches then go to a wire, which you can just see here, which then connects to the rail. Now, I've clamped that one there with a brass clamp, and that's how I plan to make them more permanent, and they will be connected that way in the future. Basically what that does is when the switch is on, it then allows electricity to flow to that section, thus making it a complete loop. And as you saw, the train goes through it. If I turn the switch off, when the train gets to this section, it will stop. We won't let it stop, we'll just let it carry on through. And basically that's what will happen for all the other sections. This one here, which is off, operates the station loop, which that coach is sitting in the background. But if a loco was sitting there, it wouldn't be moving anywhere. The reason for this is because points in G-scale, after all, are not isolated, unlike in 00, which came as a bit of a surprise to me at the start. So this wiring setup is really needed if you're running on analog, which I am currently. So yeah, so basically you just switch the switch to isolate the section. Now there's 4 switches. This one here is the straight through section on the front. That one there is going to be for the siding, which you previously saw a minute ago. This one here is obviously for the station passing loop. And that one there on the end, which is also on, that is the new extension. So if that one was off, I won't switch it off at the moment because the train's in that section, but if I were to switch it off, the train would come to a stop. And basically it means I could run about, possibly have the potential of having 3 to 4 locomotives on the track at the same time without them running away, which is real help. Now, as I mentioned, this needs to be more permanent, and I mentioned in the previous update that the wires are going to be simply buried in the ballast. Now, of course, I haven't had a few responses to that, and obviously it's not a good idea just burying the wires as they are. Now, these are quite thick wires, and they are well coated, and it does say in the manual that these can be buried in the soil. But to make them last that extra bit longer, I'm going to thread them into a rubber tube. Now this rubber tube is the same stuff you use for windscreen wiper pumps on your car, and basically I'm going to thread them through there, put a bit of blue tack at the end to sort of block them up, and basically the wire will be protected in there and there won't be any moisture or anything getting in there which could potentially corrode away the wire over the years. And then that will be buried in the ballast, and it will lead to a Tupperware box where the wire heads will come out. And now I've also had the suggestion of using sort of these little plugs you could get for the ends of wires, and this will thus make it simpler wiring it into the switch box. At the moment I have to unscrew it and re-screw it, which is a bit of a pain, so I plan to put these little plugs on there so I can just simply plug the plugs in and hopefully away we go. This will also be mounted on a wooden board, so I won't need this towel out here or anything. It will just come out as one piece, and then it will just be a sort of a plug and play system, which is going to be very handy. So continuing on round, there's been a fair bit of work done on the extension. The main thing is decluttering the track. As mentioned in the last update, where there was a fair few plants to remove, as well as topping up the ballast. Now these plants you see in shot here, I mistook these in the last update for bluebells. They are in fact not bluebells, which is quite a relief really. They are actually some sort of hyacinth. The name totally slips me now, but it's in the description on the last update. I'll put it in the description below. And what I didn't know was bluebells are a listed plant, and you're not allowed to remove them unless in certain circumstances. So, which is good news for the garden railway, or otherwise that would have been quite bad. But these are a type of hyacinth, and they are a bit like a weed really. As you can see, they get absolutely everywhere, and as I mentioned in the previous update, you can see them, they're in absolutely every flower bed around here. They're quite invasive. Apart from that, they've all been removed from the track bed itself, and hopefully they won't come back like on the main section. Of course, around the line side I do like them, they look very nice as seen here. The other bit of work I've done is, of course, topped up the ballast. Now, over time, when you put down new ballast, it tends to sink and settle, and of course that is really, really good. It builds up a nice, strong track base, but it does leave the track floating, especially around the top, so it does need the occasional top-up. And what I've gone and done is since I've done all the new part of the extension over the other side, I've used what I've got left to top up the area, which I did last year, and it's worked really, really well. So you can see mainly to the left of this shot here where the ballast is quite fresh and new looking, it's quite light, and that will hopefully dull down and match the other parts of the ballast in the not too distant future. As to be expected, getting trains running again was a bit of a challenge, a bit like last year, as originally I found a dead spot. Now, as you just saw with the train that just passed by, it slowed down once it got onto that point there, and that is because there is a bit of a connection issue with the section that runs from this point here to where it joins onto the suspension bridge. Now, I believe there is a faulty connection somewhere around these two fish plates here. Now, it won't be these sections here because after all this is isolated, but this section isn't. So I'm going to put some rail clamps on there and hopefully that will improve the connection. The other connection issue at the other end appears to be at the start of the suspension bridge, and there's a little join there where some UK Pico track, which is a lot finer than the LGB and German Pico track, and you have to have special connectors, and it seems to be there. So what I plan to do in the not too distant future is take the track up and add a bit more graphite paste in between the fish plates. That will hopefully improve the connection and hopefully stop this sort of dropping of current in the track. So here comes the train again before we move on, and you'll just see, there we go, she slowed down a bit, but she picks up speed when she gets back onto the suspension bridge. So hopefully this will be rectified and hopefully we'll have a smooth all round running. So once trains were up and running in this section, there was then the small issue of levelling out some of the track. Now this curve here is very, very tight, and you can see there is a bit of a gradient getting it onto the suspension bridge. Now I've run out of ballast because this area needs topping up to make it more of a gradual climb, and what's happened is on that curve it was leaning to the right and then all of a sudden quickly leaning to the left, and these two beautiful LGB carriages, which are right behind the loco there, were basically derailing and coming completely off the rails. So I had to remove some, well, shift around the ballast which I've got there, propping up the track, lifting it up on the inside and then lift it up on the outside to make it a bit of a smoother level rails around the bend there. And as you saw, it works. Now I need to get some more ballast as mentioned, and then I will properly top up this area and make it more permanent. This area does always need a topping up with ballast. The ballast itself is a lot higher than the track walls, and it does tend to get lost over the edge when we have heavy rainfall. But it's working its way down, and I've noticed, especially last year, the ballast is now more compact in this area, and the track bed itself is a lot stronger than what it was. So this issue has become less and less, but nonetheless, it still needs sorting, and hopefully it will be sorted in the next month or so. So I hope you enjoyed this update, and it's great to see that trains are running, and hopefully over the coming months, if we get more lovely weather like this, and I get some free time when the weather is like this, of course, I hope to get a lot more trains running again. As you know, I've got the I've had a few new arrivals. I believe that this is this first Loco's video, so we'll hopefully see her feature in a few more videos, even when I get around to modifying her with hopefully sound and her narrow gauge buffers as well. We've also got to get the Pico Mogul out again, and also we've had the recent arrival of the Batman Lin, and as you know, I have got a USA Batman Lin, but I finally managed to source a proper Southern UK Lin, which I'm really excited about, especially considering the real locomotive is, or a replica of the real locomotive is set to return to steam on the Lynn to the Barnstable Railway in the not too distant future. It is quite exciting to have a G-scale model of that very locomotive. So I hope to see her running in the garden in the not too distant future too. So I guess that's all for this update, and I'll now leave you with a bit of an iconic shot of the train crossing the suspension bridge. So I hope you enjoyed, and this has been SDJR 88 speaking, and thanks for watching.